Good morning, Tony Dattino. I am the founder of the USA Memory Championship, and we're in the preparations for our 26th event, which will be conducted virtually on July the 12th. We will then pick up our top 10 people, possibly 12, and invite them to Winter Park, Florida at Full Sail University for August the 23rd. And that will tell us who our 26th USA Memory Championship is. And as I continue to study memory and the impacts of different activities and things on our lives and our mental functions and cognitive skills, it just keeps showing up that becoming a lifelong learner helps you to keep your mind and your memory strong. And it calls the ongoing endeavor of picking up knowledge, possibly a new skill, learning how to do something you hadn't done before. Maybe it's a language, maybe it's fixing things, maybe it's assembling some models, or any new experience. Not only supports your own self-esteem, it keeps you engaged in purpose, it keeps you engaged in social activity, but it's an overall well-producing result. So, in any class that you take, or any lifelong endeavor that you partake in, the important thing is to do something different and something that's challenging your brain to do something you hadn't done before. And some of the science reports that come out of the Mind, Mood, and Memory from the University of Massachusetts General Hospital suggest that the more different it is from anything you've done before, the better it becomes as a lifelong learning ability. That helps to, right now, why would you do this? It helps to compensate for any structural or functional changes that are brought on by your aging, which the goal is for all of us to get older, I would hope. But it would help to compensate for any of the things that have damage as we get older, and it builds up a reserve, and possibly anything that you may have done that's damaged your brain, or any signs of the disease that's showing up. It helps to develop impairments, or it helps to improve on any possible impairments. So they use the term here: the more that you practice a new skill and learn new information, the more new pathways. So here's the thing I would share with people. Let me see if I can draw this out in a simple way. So here's the patterns of what our brain looks like. It's got all these pathways, right? And these pathways have spokes that come off them. So that you look at the pictures of the brain. If you go to a museum and they're doing a brain exhibit, you look at pictures of the brain. It's got all these offshoots. It's like the roots of a tree. I always like to think of it as I look at my trees around my property. It's always like the roots of a tree, and they're just growing, and then they have spines that grow off of that, and then they have ones that grow. Well, your brain's got billions of these. And so when you're learning new things, what you're basically doing is you're expanding your root system. You're expanding the potential for your brain to, as it does its pruning every night, you grow new reserves, you grow new branches, you grow new pathways called the dendritic spines. And so it's important because the degree of age-related dementia correlates with the loss of these synapses, or these fibers that then create the synapses which create your thinking. So in other words, the more of these synapses you make, it affords you the ability to lose others that may wade off that you're not using. And so this is the expression you hear people say: you either lose it or you use it, or you lose it. And therefore, mental challenges of any new sort become a growth vitamin for you to grow these new extensions, right? To grow new extensions off the midpoints, and therefore it provides us with what the science world calls a cognitive reserve. And what a cognitive reserve refers to, as I read this article, it says the ability to compensate for and or adjust to structural or functional changes brought on by aging, as I already said, injuries, or a form of a disease. So you're building additional muscles in your brain, additional pathways, they're not muscles, but additional pathways and fibers in your brain that allow you to overcome maybe the early onset of some of the diseases, or maybe an injury, or maybe some of the impacts of aging. And so how we do that says that you want to have a strong reserve, explains why some people experience minimal cognitive decline despite their advanced age, while others have serious impairments. So I'm in the pool yesterday, so one of the things obviously the science is suggesting is you want to do some form of exercise. And I'm listening this morning and they're talking about how to minimize even your impacts to cancer and how to reduce the recurrence of it, is making sure you obviously eat well, but that you're getting exercise, even walking. And so the science world is evolving so rapidly right now in learning new things about our mental functions, and that it's just amazing in terms of what you can do to take control over things that in the past we thought we were just doomed to a certain pathway in life, and therefore whatever happened, happened, and we never took ownership, or we never took a responsibility for it. And so what's important, the research is suggesting that when you stop learning and stimulating your mental thinking processes, then your memory problems and loss of purpose and or passion for living begins to take over. And I think that's sad, especially when your sense of purpose or your passion for living begins to wane, when we know there are things that you can overcome in that node. Meaning, there are so many things you can do with social activity. There are so many things you can do with your own mental games and or challenges. There are so many things you can do in terms of how to reduce your stress in your life, and then how to bring a purpose back, and how to bring a skill or something that you've accomplished during your life that you can share with other people that would just value you in such a level that in some cases you can consult and actually earn an income for it. In other cases, you just get an internal, intrinsic joy from knowing you're making a difference in other people's lives. So it's a win-win-win for all the people that are involved in that circle. And so we now begin to challenge, or we now begin to define, well, what are mental challenges? And so in the USA Memory Championship, we've taken some of the fundamentals of first, how do you remember people's names? When you're meeting people in a social environment, one of the things people worry about is, I'm not going to remember their names. If I don't remember their names, how am I going to talk to them again if I see them a second and third time? And so there's a skill involved in the competition, and there are skills involved with how does one remember the names of the people they meet? And how do we focus on that? There are skills in terms of it in numerics, and we've gotten a little bit lazy with cell phones, that we think cell phones are going to be all we ever need for remembering numbers, but my goodness, math, and I don't want to say math, remembering numerics in our lives are one of the important functions and patterns of how do we learn to remember numerical values. And maybe it's an address, maybe it's a price of something that we paid, maybe it's interest rates that we're paying on loans that we have for a car or for a house or for some purchases that we've made. And so how to remember numbers is another activity. Clearly, we have one on what we call lists, the loci Roman room method, in terms of how to remember lists of things, the to-dos that we have, and the things that we want to remember that we can lock into our memories. And so in the overall structure of the USA Memory Championship, we've got, in the USA Memory Championship website, we have a couple of courses on how do you remember it? So what are some of the skills that I could practice and learn as mental challenges? And then 6 key factors, a second online course on the 6 key factors that maintain long-term cognitive fitness. And we just love it when people sign up and send us a note and say, wow, I've done this, I've practiced, and I may even now want to try my skills in the USA Memory Championship, which is not why we put those courses out there, but we put them out there to demonstrate to people there are things that you can do to improve your memory at any age, and that can help you to minimize or do as much as you can take control of personally to minimize the impacts of cognitive depreciation. And off I go to the Memory Institute. So as I look at the clock and look at my schedule for the day, I'm off to the Memory Institute, which we do here at the YMCA in Dr. Phillips, Orlando area, Florida. And it's making such a difference in people's lives that I get such a purpose from it, such a value of me giving back and learning and building social interaction and building new friends, that I just look forward to Monday and Wednesdays when we do this particular workshop. So with that, we're off to a week. We're into the month of June. My goodness, I don't know where May went, but we here in the Orlando, Windermere, Florida area had 16.5 inches of rain, which we desperately needed. And so now all the ponds are filled, and we're looking forward to having a good summer. Have a great day, and we'll see you on Wednesday.